Our story begins with Mary, who's heading to the supermarket beaming with joy. She's finally achieved her lifelong dream. But sadly, that happiness is short-lived. Suddenly, a woman storms in with a shotgun and announces that no one is leaving the place alive. To understand what's going on and why Mary is so happy, let's rewind a few hours to the beginning of her day. After 15 years of marriage, Mary has finally managed to buy the apartment of her dreams. No more living in a cramped room with her husband Cheyenne and their daughter. She's absolutely thrilled, not just about the apartment, but also about the beautiful residential complex she's moving into. When she arrives, she quickly befriends the security guard and tells him about her life, how she's buried in debt because of the apartment. The guard finds it strange that she's so cheerful, especially considering most of the neighbors have shady backgrounds. Some are gossips, others are part of gangs, and one woman just lets her dog run wild with no care in the world. But Mary is too excited to notice any of this. She spends half the day organizing and unpacking. Just as she's about to sit down and rest, her mother-in-law and her husband's siblings show up, acting like they're doing her a favor by visiting to congratulate her. It's the worst timing, but she tries to handle it politely. To make matters worse, they sit comfortably waiting to be served food, and even mock her for buying such a small apartment. They suggest it was suspiciously cheap and might be haunted or cursed. Mary, now exhausted, escapes to the kitchen, barely holding herself back from grabbing the fire extinguisher and spraying it in their faces to shut them up. In her mind, she flashes back to 19 years ago, the first time she met her husband. They were watching a football match in a cafe, and their love story began the moment their team scored and they jumped with joy together. Her daydream is interrupted by her mother-in-law shouting from the living room, demanding food. Mary uses this as an excuse to leave the house, saying she's going to the supermarket. Once at the store, she's amazed by everything around her. Meanwhile, we meet Kyung, a local resident sampling all the free meat giveaways. She notices her friend John, pretending to be a customer while warning people that prices are high, subtly advertising her own store down the street, which she owns with her husband. Kyung warns her to be careful, or she could get sued. Just then, So-hee, a delivery worker, arrives to pick up an order for a client. As she's about to leave, a woman appears in front of her with a shotgun and tells her to turn back. No woman is allowed to leave today. Strangely, men are free to go, and they're told to shut all exits so the situation doesn't escalate. The woman gathers all the women in one place and declares, "Whoever's having an affair with my husband better step forward now, or I'll take you all out at once." We then learn that this woman is Sheena, and she's here to take revenge on her cheating husband, the manager of the store. And guess who comes out from behind the counter? Her husband. He awkwardly steps forward and has the audacity to apologize to everyone, claiming Sheena is mentally unstable and has delusions. He insists he'd never cheat. But Sheena explodes. "I saw you with my own eyes this morning with another woman. You took her to a hotel." As he continues to deny it, Sheena snaps and points the gun at him. Thankfully, Kyung reacts fast and throws a bag of bread at him, knocking him to the ground just before Sheena pulls the trigger. Sheena loses it even more. "He's a cheater and you're helping him?" Kyung tries to calm her down, saying, "At least be sure first. If he's not cheating, you'll end up in jail for nothing." Mary, seeing the chaos, steps in to help. She tells Sheena, "Take a breath. I'll help you find out who your husband's cheating with. Once we know, you can do whatever you want with them." Sheena agrees but warns her, "If you're just stalling, I'll finish you off first." Mary tries to gather clues, but her phone keeps ringing. It's her mother-in-law, rushing her to bring back fruit. No matter how hard she tries to hint that she's in a life-or-death situation, they keep yelling at her over fruit. Sheena finally grabs Mary's phone and smashes it on the ground. "You have 3 minutes," she says. "Either tell me who the woman is or everyone dies." By now, the police have surrounded the supermarket and are trying to find a safe way to get inside. Mary thinks fast and recalls, "Didn't you see your husband with that woman? She must be one of the employees here." Sheena immediately gathers all 5 female staff members and demands a confession. Or she'll take them all down. Her husband starts yelling, telling her to stop the madness. He keeps insisting he's innocent and tries to guilt her with their son. "Do you want our kid to live with this scandal?" That's the last straw for Sheena. "You're the last person who gets to speak," she says. "Did you forget what you did to me?" We then flash back 5 days earlier. Her husband is taking their son to an amusement park, seemingly just using the opportunity to escape and cheat in peace. He left the amusement park and went off to spend time with his mistress, leaving his injured son behind. The boy had to be picked up from the hospital after tripping and breaking his leg. That was the final straw. All the women present finally take Sheena's side. Everyone's outraged, saying things like, Is this what men have come to these days? John, driven by pure rage, grabs a sack of onions and starts beating him with it. Suddenly, it turns into a detective scene. Everyone starts playing Sherlock, trying to figure out which of the 5 women is the mistress. That's when Mary steps up confidently and says, "I know exactly who it is." She points at the girl who had been handing out grilled meat samples earlier. But words aren't enough. Sheena needs proof. Mary explains that when Sheena pointed the gun at her earlier, her husband instantly jumped in to shield the girl. That kind of instinct only comes from guilt. They all pull out their phones and start digging through Instagram looking for clues. Eventually, they find pictures of the two in the same location. But the nail in the coffin? A photo where the mistress is sitting at a restaurant table, and in the spoon's reflection, his face is clearly visible. Meanwhile, outside, the police are causing a commotion, trying to storm the building. Kyung texts her husband, who happens to be the officer in charge, telling him to wait. They're close to resolving it peacefully. But he ignores her, not wanting to butt heads with his superior. So Kung takes matters into her own hands. A former police officer with strength to match, she pushes a large freezer on her own to block the main entrance, buying more time to defuse the situation from the inside. Just then, Sheena loses control. She swears on everything she holds sacred that she's going to kill them both. She raises the gun, but before she can pull the trigger, the police burst in. Realizing it's over, Sheena turns the weapon on herself. She feels worthless, ashamed that her son will grow up haunted by her scandal. But all the women rush to stop her. They talk her down, encouraging her not to give up on herself. In an act of solidarity, they snatch her husband's phone during the chaos, transfer all the money from his account to hers, and promise, "When you get out of prison, you'll have something to start over with." Later that day, we see Mary at home, eating fruit with her family. The same fruit her in-laws wouldn't stop yelling about earlier. But just as she thinks everything has calmed down, she sees a news report on TV about a tragic incident involving a student, and it shakes her to the core. She retreats to her room to clear her head, and we flash back to her school days, to the moment she met her best friend Hyun, who had just transferred. From that day on, they were closer than sisters. Realizing she can't keep living in the past, Mary heads out for a walk. By chance, she runs into Kyung and John, sitting and drinking together. She joins them, and during their late-night chat, we learn more about each woman. Kyung used to be a tough cop. Her body's still strong from those days. John worked in insurance, but her dream was always to become a lawyer. And Mary? She spent her teenage years obsessed with Sherlock Holmes novels, giving her a sharp eye for detail. The three decide to form a team to help solve the neighborhood's endless problems. They name themselves Team Holmes. Soon, Sohee joins them. She knows everything about everyone in the area thanks to her delivery job. A few days later, we see Kyung bringing lunch to her husband at the police station. As she walks in, she flashes back to 2005, her golden years on the force. She was respected, feared, and stronger than most of her male colleagues. Back then, she had just started dating her husband, Number. With her commanding presence, she treated him roughly in public but secretly waited for any chance to show him love in private. On one mission, they were assigned to arrest a gang leader. Kyung took down the whole gang almost single-handedly, but at the last moment, their boss tried to attack her from behind. Thankfully, No arrived just in time, drew his weapon, and saved her. But Kyung took the fall. She resigned from the force to protect him, a decision that still haunts her. Back in the present, No asks, "Don't you regret quitting?" She brushes him off, pretending not to hear, and walks away. Later, Mary and Kyung are heading out when they see old Miss Luan yelling next to a red car. She explains the car's owner has been parking badly for over 3 weeks, blocking everyone and refusing to listen. The group decides to teach him a lesson. They park in his usual spot to give him a taste of his own medicine. The next day, the car's owner shows up. He's clearly a thug, just out of jail with his girlfriend hyping up everything he does. Furious that someone took his spot, he vows revenge. The day after, Kyung finds her car smeared with chewed gum all over. Enough is enough. It's war now. She pampers her husband with a lavish dinner and then asks him to pull all the traffic violations linked to this thug's car. But No is irritated, telling her to drop her detective fantasy. Meanwhile, Mary is stuck in her husband's car, looking for her lost bank card. Coincidentally, he had parked in the thug's spot. When the guy returns and sees the car, he loses it, convinced the women are out to get him. He calls his friends and they surround Mary's car from all sides with theirs. Mary finally finds her card under the seat but realizes she's completely trapped. She can't even squeeze out through the window. Then the battery dies. She calls security to get her husband, but he's in such a deep sleep, He doesn't hear a thing. In moments like this, only Kyung and John can be counted on. They film a video pretending to lift his car, threatening to damage it if he doesn't come out. Panicked, the man comes running, only to say with complete arrogance, "You didn't need to go this far. A simple call would have done." Fed up, the group decides they need to settle this once and for all. They learn that he owns a barbecue restaurant, and with that, they know exactly how to get even. They begin gathering information on him, hoping to catch him on any violation, and it doesn't take long. Within hours, they're proudly heading to his restaurant, because when they rummaged through his trash, they discovered he was using expired meat. Soon, the health inspection team arrives and the entire restaurant gets shut down. But they're not done. At the end of the day, they wait for him to return and park in his usual spot. Then the three women suddenly show up in their cars and trap him in, just like he used to do to everyone else. Only this time, they leave him stuck until morning. It's like he was completely reformed overnight, suddenly treating all the neighbors with an exaggerated amount of respect, as if they were his own family. Meanwhile, we flash back with John to 1995, when she worked at an insurance company. She used to constantly drop by the market to convince the owner to sign up for a policy. But he was beyond stingy and kept rudely kicking her out every time, worse than the time before. Then one day, she spotted him in a restaurant celebrating his birthday with friends, who were all teasing him for never dating because of how tight-fisted he was. John, sitting at the next table, decided to do him a solid. She walked over and pretended to be his girlfriend. Grateful for the gesture, he agreed to sign the policy. And that's how their epic love story began. Sadly, after they got married, he refused to keep paying for the insurance. John lost her job because of him and ended up working at his market, like any dutiful wife. One day, Mary is walking home with her daughter Z when they run into Mino, Z's classmate. He's wandering the streets alone because his father passed out drunk again. They help him and take him to the hospital. Once he's stable, they head home. Later, we see Mino trying to cook dinner, struggling to lift a heavy pot of stew over his head. Ever since his mom died, his father has done nothing but drink. To make things worse, Mino is constantly bullied at school. No one dares step in. Everyone's too afraid they'll be next. The next day, Mino is forced to go to the store to buy cigarettes for the bullies. If he doesn't, he knows he'll get badly beaten. He lies to John, saying his father sent him to buy them, but she refuses, telling him he needs to be at least 18 and that his dad should come himself. Later, when the store is busy, he sneaks a pack out without anyone noticing and delivers them to the gang in a park near the housing complex. By chance, Mary's husband walks by and sees the scene. He bravely confronts the group, saying, "You're still kids. This isn't right." But they have no respect. They grab him too, ready to beat him up. Just then, Kyung arrives like a storm and gives them a proper thrashing. The boys grab their bags and scatter like mice. That night, Z tells her mom everything. How Mino is constantly bullied and how she's scared to help him because she might become their next target. Mary gathers her team and shares the latest. They decide to help Mino before he does something dangerous. They start monitoring the bullies, secretly recording them beating him up to gather evidence. Then one day, as Mino is crossing the road, lost in thought, cars speed past him. Mary rushes over and pulls him out of the street just in time, saving his life. They try to talk to him, offer help, but he's broken. He says he's done everything, reported them to teachers, even the police, but no one helped. "So please," he says, "just stay out of it." He walks away. Then he gets a call from the gang. "Come to the park. Your little princess is with us." At first, he's confused, but then it hits him. They've taken Z, the only one who's ever shown him kindness. He races over. "Leave her alone," he pleads. "Do whatever you want to me." They laugh and beat him up instead. Suddenly, Team Holmes arrives. The women jump in and teach the bullies a real lesson, because these kids clearly missed out on proper parenting. Afterward, the women tell the bullies they've captured everything on video. "You'll be expelled and barred from university. Clean up your act while you still can." The next day, they go to the school with Mino and file a formal complaint. That's when his father finally snaps out of his drunken haze. He quits drinking and returns to his old job. Back at home, Mary discovers the apartment above hers has finally been rented by new neighbors. But just then, she gets a call from her sister-in-law, yelling over the phone. "Now I know why your apartment was so cheap. One of the previous tenants jumped out the window." Mary can't even process what she's hearing. She pretends she already knew, brushes it off with a quick, "Oh yeah, sure. Bye." The next morning, she rushes to meet her friends to find out the full story. Turns out the man who lived there before was well loved by everyone. But after his daughter died in an accident, he became reclusive. And then, it happened. They try to reassure Mary, saying, "It's fine. Let it go. Everyone moves on eventually. Meanwhile, the police discover a new case. A woman found dead in an abandoned location. A red ribbon tied around her neck. The suspect? Dressed entirely in black, face concealed. And by pure coincidence, he lives in the same complex as our main characters. The next day, Sohee goes to the supermarket to pick up items for a delivery. There, she meets a cashier with half of her hair dyed bright red. They strike up a conversation because Sohee has yellow highlights. Instant connection. But something's off. The boy working with the red-haired girl is acting very strange, his eyes full of suspicion. Meanwhile, the entire neighborhood stages a protest in front of the trash area. Garbage has been piling up for over a month. The building manager, fed up, dumps the responsibility on Luan, since she's in charge of the residents group. But Luan, lost in her own world, passes the job on to Mary and her team. They accept the challenge. After all, if Mary helps her solve this, half the residents have promised to sign up for the gym where her husband works as a trainer. Mary holds a small strategy meeting with the team, convincing them to help sort the trash. And so they begin digging through the bags, determined to figure out which trash belongs to which neighbor. They start sorting the garbage bags to return each one to its rightful owner. By the end of the day, they spot Kim, Lowen's son, returning from university, his face buried in a book, studying even as he walks. They all start gossiping about how he's the most handsome guy in the neighborhood. And to top it off, he studies economics. Basically, he's flawless. While they're still going through the trash, they find a missing dog flyer. It's Susie's dog. They feel bad for her, even though she's always acting out and letting her dog run wild. Still, it's not right. Meanwhile, the mysterious man in all black is watching Susie. Judging by the way he stares, it looks like she might be his next victim. The day passes as they continue digging through garbage. Suddenly, they hear a woman scream. Miri rushes over to check, and the woman tells her a man in black had been following her. When she turned around, he's suddenly stripped completely naked, just standing there like God created him. Disgusting. Coincidentally, they see a man standing nearby, dressed all in black. Miri thinks he's the creep and starts beating him up. The guy tries to explain he has no idea what's going on. And when he's had enough, he runs off to avoid a bigger scene. Later that night, Miri is in her room when she hears buzzing noises from her neighbor. She knocks to ask them to quiet down. And shockingly, it's the same guy she just beat up. Of course, he refuses to open the door, pretending not to hear anything. The next day, Miri steps outside to give her daughter her school bag and sees a man in a security uniform. It's Park. Turns out he just got hired at their apartment complex. He tries for 2 whole hours to convince her he has nothing to do with the flasher incident, that it was just a coincidence. But Miri's mind is made up. Out of frustration, he finally tells her, "Fine, I'll catch the pervert myself just to clear my name." Later, she and Kyung head to the supermarket in the neighboring complex to return someone's garbage. A guy there, the same suspicious one, keeps giving weird looks to the red-haired girl he works with. Miri recalls seeing a torn red ribbon earlier and gets a bad feeling. She asks if he knows anything about it, but he gets nervous and fumbles with his words, like he's being interrogated. Turns out he's seriously obsessed with the girl, so much so that he's been keeping her locked up in his apartment so she can't interact with anyone else. Coincidentally, Miri had recently run into the girl's sister, who told her she's been missing for a while. That confirms Miri's suspicions, and she gathers her team to figure out a way to rescue her. Meanwhile, the police discover a new crime scene, a dead girl with a red ribbon tied around her neck. This matches exactly how Miri's best friend died back in school. Same ribbon, same way. So they decide to take action. They send Ji-yeon to knock on the guy's door, pretending to deliver food from his mother. He opens up and she barges in, saying she needs to check the address. She notices a padlocked room, and the guy looks completely disconnected, clearly unwell. He starts ranting about how his mom left him when he was 3. Like that explains everything. Ji-yeon plays along, pretending she got the apartment number wrong. She excuses herself to the bathroom to buy time, while Miri calls the guy and tells him someone hit his car outside. As soon as he leaves, the girls rush in and break the lock. Inside, they find the missing girl, badly beaten and traumatized. By the time he gets back, the police are already there. Later, Susie is crying her eyes out over her missing dog. By chance, she finds a button on her floor and wonders how it got there. The next day, Miri gets a call from an old schoolmate. Their former teacher has passed away. She goes to the funeral, but there, one of the women lashes out at her. "You've got the nerve to show up after what you did to Yoon?" She tells her that Yoon's mother took her own life too. Miri is devastated. She goes drinking alone, hoping the alcohol will drown the past she can't seem to escape. Meanwhile, the same creep in black keeps exposing himself to women. The security guard is patrolling when he spots a guy in black standing outside an apartment. Thinking he's the pervert, he confronts him. But it turns out to be Park. And then comes the twist. We find out the security guard is Park's real father. 10 years ago, he cut Park out of his life. Since then, Park's been working nearby just to stay close to him. He tells his father, "I'm writing a novel. In a few months, I'll make sure you can quit this miserable job." Elsewhere, the building manager is raising hell at the security office because his delivery hasn't arrived. He's visibly anxious. Meanwhile, someone is secretly following and photographing Sohee, and all signs point to the same flasher targeting the women in the complex. Miri decides to visit a psychiatrist. She can't cope with the trauma anymore, especially the guilt of surviving when her best friend died. The doctor prescribes her medication. Later, Miri meets with her neighbors again to discuss what to do about the pervert, but most of them couldn't care less. She turns to Park. He's the only one willing to help, maybe to redeem himself. They start tracking the flasher and realize he always appears on rainy days, like today. They prepare an ambush and have Park dress as a woman to lure him out. He ends up looking stunning. The plan works. The flasher shows up and they catch him red-handed. The shocking twist? They discover he's the building manager himself, and they all start sorting each trash bag to its rightful owner. Miri, still haunted by guilt over her friend's death, visits a therapist. She confesses that she was there the night it all happened, and that the killer warned her not to come in or he'd kill her friend. Out of fear, she obeyed, and has lived with that guilt ever since. The therapist suspiciously tells her, "It's probably for the best you didn't see his face." Then, Miri receives a call from the hospital. Sohee's son, not even 5 years old, is critically ill. Sohee had listed Miri as an emergency contact. Rushing over, Miri realizes Sohee is missing and starts searching for her. Meanwhile, Sohee wakes up tied up, face to face with Kim, Lowen's son, the seemingly perfect economic student. Yes, he's the predator. Sohee is shocked to see all of Susie's photos pinned around the room. Kim tells her about the night he exposed himself to Susie, and she just laughed it off and told him to get dressed. That was the moment he fell in love, because she was the first to ever show concern for him. He started following her everywhere and drawing her. Now he sees Sohee as the next special one. Meanwhile, Miri notices Lowen walking suspiciously with a garbage bag. Curious, she follows her and discovers all of Kim's drawings of Susie, along with trophies from all his victims. Lowen admits she's known her son was unstable for a long time and tried to cover for him. Miri gives her an ultimatum: give them the key to his second apartment or she's calling the cops. Lowen gives in, but the key doesn't work. They're forced to break in. Inside, Kim attacks Kyung and threatens to kill her too. As usual, he starts monologuing, explaining how Susie rejected him, called him a freak, and that's why he killed her. He blames everything on his abusive mother, who used to burn him with cigarettes and lock him on the balcony naked. Eventually, the 4 women overpower him, knock him out, and the police arrive. At a distance, Miri's therapist watches the scene, smiling. It's revealed he was the one who encouraged Kim, giving him detailed notes on how to commit the murders and even how to tie the red ribbon. The next day, the Holmes girls are recovering in the hospital. Later, Miri finds out her husband's salary hasn't come in. When she calls the gym, they tell her he quit a month ago. Turns out he secretly sold their apartment to open a cafe, without telling her. They argue, but he promises he didn't touch the house money, just borrowed a little from his sister. Elsewhere, the police interrogate Kim. He admits his mother killed Susie's dog and he killed Susie. He tries to take credit for all the past murders too, insisting there's no second killer. But the detective knows he's lying. Miri asks to speak with Kim. She tells the police she was a witness to the murder 10 years ago. In truth, it was her fault. She convinced her friend to sneak into an abandoned hospital. Her friend hesitated, but went anyway to please Miri. That's when the original killer attacked. Miri wants to confirm if Kim was that killer, but it's too late. Kim is found dead in the police station bathroom. Later, Miri receives a call from one of the neighbors, Aunt Min, who reveals that Yoon's mom used to live in their same building and they were close. She gives Miri Yoon's mom's sewing box, the last thing she left behind. Inside is a journal. It reveals that she eventually found happiness and comfort among her neighbors after her daughter's death. She even felt guilty about how harshly she treated Miri. But Miri is shocked to find the final page of the journal torn out and a paper with her own old address. She realizes Yoon's mom was planning to visit her. This makes her start to suspect that maybe she didn't take her own life after all, and something else happened to her. And finally, she tells her that the last time she met Yoon's mother, she had asked her to buy a voice recorder, but no one knows exactly what she needed it for. Then, she finds a yellow envelope placed by the apartment door. Inside, there's all the information Yoon's mother had gathered about the killer. And the biggest shock? The infamous Red Ribbon Killer turns out to be the old man who works in security. Meanwhile, Park sneaks into his father's room to search for evidence. He's the one who left the file at Miri's doorstep. Just in case anything happened to him, she'd know where to look. While searching the drawers, he finds the ring Yoon's mother wore on the day of the incident, confirming all of his suspicions. But before he can act, his father suddenly appears in front of him and says, "So, what's your final wish before you meet your end?" That's when we learn that Park had been suspicious of his father ever since the first incident. That's why he started digging, attending victim support group meetings, and gathering clues for the novel he was writing. At one of those meetings, he met Yoon's mother. When he saw her crying, he tried to comfort her. And from that moment, they formed a bond. She treated him like her own son. After her death, he visited her house and discovered that his father was working as a security guard in the same complex. That's when the doubts really started to grow. He moved into the complex to investigate from the inside. But now, his father is done listening. He pulls out a rope from his pocket, ready to end things quickly. A few hours later, he calls Miri and tells her that he has her daughter, in the same place where he murdered her friend. If she wants to see her daughter again, she must come to the abandoned hospital and bring all the evidence she has so they can deal with it together. By now, Miri has already found the voice recorder, which contains the proof. It turns out Yoon's mother had developed a close relationship with the killer. He was so sweet to her that when she found out he was sick, she even visited him at home with some soup. But by pure coincidence, she stumbled upon his diary. And in it, he had written down everything he did to her daughter. She played dumb, just to get out safely. From that moment on, she started gathering evidence quietly, until the day she finally confronted him and started recording their conversation. But the moment he realized, he didn't hesitate. He threw her out the window. When Miri arrives at the abandoned hospital, she frantically searches for her daughter. He appears, calm as ever, and tells her to relax. "I haven't done anything yet." He tells her to hand over the voice recording and they'll see what happens next. At the same time, the Holmes team realizes she went to face him alone. They rally together and call the police. When the police arrive, they find the killer with a rope around Miri's neck. He was moments away from killing her. They try to talk him down, suggesting they find a peaceful solution. But suddenly, the three of them attack him. Unfortunately, he's already prepared. He'd doused the whole place in gasoline. Just as he pulls out a lighter to finish the job, Park arrives right on time and beats him down until the police arrest him. 3 months later, Miri's husband's cafe is thriving. The Holmes team has their own room in the back, where they help people with their problems. And business is booming. Everything seems to have calmed down. But then we see Miri's old therapist holding a file full of photos of her and her friends. It's clear. There's a third killer still out there, one they know nothing about. Back at the cafe, the Holmes team is up late brainstorming how to expand their services. Suddenly, a woman walks in, dressed to the nines. They realize it's Sheena, the woman they met earlier at the market who wanted to kill her husband. She's finally out of prison, started a business, and is thriving. She smiles and says, "So, what do you say? Want to join my team?" And with that, our drama comes to an end. Goodbye.